basically, my understanding of this is county liability that has already basically been incurred. So it isn't something about new benefits, it's not something we can make another decision about, it's not something that we can, I mean, we have, in a sense, by this formula, postponed it, but in actuality, we really need to get 100% of those dollars on the table at some point. And all this is with respect to alternative 4, which is the recommended funding rate, is taking us one incremental step down that path. Because ultimately we have to get there. It's a county, and I believe we had this discussion, and Mr. Knudsen might remember as well, once upon a time, with respect to where this debt fits in the hierarchy of debt that the county has. It's very, very high in terms of close to the top, in terms of services can be done away with. The county's service delivery system might look very different than it does today, but this debt will carry forth because it's one that we're obligated to. So I think having a little background on it might help the board and anyone from the public understand what we're really talking about here, and it isn't something that really the county has a lot of choice in, and we're trying to get onto a reasonable pathway to get to this 100%. In other words, the last couple budget discussions we've had the last couple of years, we've had them as if sort of the 10% didn't exist. A lot of discussion about how we're carrying forth with our debt repayment obligations, but we're only really referencing the 90%. We're never talking about the 10, and it continues to be off the table. But in the real world, it doesn't work that way. It's like having a second mortgage on your house and talking about how you almost, you almost have the home ownership, but you're just not talking about you have a second mortgage over on the side. So it's sort of as a parallel along those lines, but maybe Mr. Knudsen could sort of fill us in on what we're obligated to, why we're obligated to it, and why this is the course of action that we came up with to try to address it.
Well, first, I think Harold would agree with me on this. You're really only obligated at this time because of the funding agreement to do the normal cost contribution to the retirement system, which is the 10.10%, and the 10.3, and it would be increased to the 10.35 to be in line with the funding agreement. The 10.98. If we looked at last year's page 28 of the report, last year we were 90.1% funded. Now we're 88.7% funded. That drop primarily was because of increased salaries, increased benefits that went into effect in 2003 for some of the employees, and a little earlier for a small number of employees, and all of the things that Harold mentioned when he started his report. They're mentioned, I think, on page 3 or so of the report. A 6% increase in salaries, a 6% increase in the number of employees. So total payroll has been increased by 14%. The actuaries, I believe, use 5% increase as a normal increase in salaries. And when you have 14.3% as compared to a 5%, you're increasing your unfunded liability by decisions that are made to expand the payroll, give raises, that kind of thing, all things that are necessary, but it does result in an increased unfunded liability for your retirement system. And I think the board should recognize that they have to start doing something to keep that in line, or future increases that I know are going to occur this coming year, 2008, 2009, are going to be probably match. Just the salary increases alone are going to match the 14.3%. I'm sorry, about half of that. I think it's going to be about a 7% increase. And then if any new employees come along, you're going to increase your unfunded liability even more and decrease your funded ratio. So it is the two things I think that we really need to look at are, one, the second agreement, the one that was accepted and adopted in 2002, really violated the first one, which said by the end of 2018, I believe it is, we will be 100% funded. The retirement system will be 100% funded. And with this funding agreement that was adopted in 2002, in effect, that will not happen. And the first agreement, the one that was adopted in 1992-93, is really mandated, for lack of a better word, by the government code. The government code specified that the retirement board can allow the county to increase the amortization one time and one time only, up to 30 years. The request was to increase it to 25 years. We did that. The retirement board went along with that, agreed to the increase to 25 years, but again, the agreement would be that at the end of that 25-year period, you would be funding to 100%. And we will not do this with this, the funding agreement from 2002.
Supervisor Pinchas.
Tim, on page 25, the contributions, that's from the employee and the employer. That's the income.
Yes.
That's the total
Yes.
contributions. Yeah.
And they're almost equally split between the two.
Yeah, I understand what you just said about the, how it's salary increases and everything that goes up. But on the other side, on the actual investment return, look at the huge actual investment return between 2004 and 2007. I mean, because that money from the pension obligation bonds that we put in there, that certainly helped that investment return. And my point is, shouldn't the county, because the county is, borrowed the money, and it's the county that's making the pension obligation bond payments and interest every year, but it's the retirement system that has that money invested, and it has, maybe not so much this year, but in the last 4 years, it owed over double-digit returns. Mm-hmm. And it's increased that actual investment return tremendously. So shouldn't the county get a break on their contribution rate?
Well, you absolutely will. That $31 million will get recognized over the next 4 years, offsetting the raising of the percentage target by 1% each year.
Yeah.
Right. It will be available to you. It'll just be spread over the next 4 years.
But I mean, putting it real bluntly, financially, for the $90 million, well, the 30 and then the $90 million that we invested in the retirement system, after 4 years or since when it went in place, what we're being told is they'll come up with another $400,000 a year. I mean, I don't see, the contribution level is pretty flat, but if you look at the investment return, that revenue side is a tremendous increase. So, I mean, when the retirement system increased in 4 years from 33 to 50 million, 51, what's that, 17 million? And then, and then they ask the county for $400,000 more a year. It just, I don't know. As a second grader math student, that don't sound like a good deal.
May I add something to this?
Please.
I've been doing actuarial evaluations for over 40 years, including maybe 15 years in LA County government work, and I have never seen any county fund towards anything less than 100% target. In fact, in my 40-year career, I've never seen any employer fund to less than a 100% target. Now, how you get there is varied by plan, but the target has always been 100% target by so many years. And this is quite unusual. It's not illegal, it's unusual.
Welcome to Mendocino County. Okay. Shall Mr. Loeb proceed?
Are there
any other questions?
other questions?
Okay. Let's go to public comment. Is there any members of the public that want to speak to the actuarial report and the findings? Okay. Not seeing any. Back to Tim. Any additional comments or anything?
No, I believe so. I think we have, we have two issues here. One is the amendment to the funding agreement. That it was actually originally a funding